The morning was quiet, the kind of silence that makes every heartbeat feel louder. A thin fog covered the cemetery, and a young woman knelt beside a white marble grave, her shoulders trembling as she cried into her hands. She wore a faded coat, 2 sizes too big, and her hair was tied back in a messy knot. Anyone passing by might have thought she was visiting a loved one. But that grave didn't belong to her. A shadow slowly approached. The sound of steady footsteps stopped behind her. When she looked up, she froze. A tall, neatly dressed man stood a few feet away, his expensive shoes sinking lightly into the soft ground. His face was calm yet shadowed by a grief that had clearly lived inside him for years. "That's my wife's grave," he said quietly. "What's your story?" The young woman wiped her tears, embarrassed and startled. She tried to stand but her legs shook beneath her. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to trespass. I just didn't know where else to go." The man, Daniel Hayes, a well-known millionaire entrepreneur, tilted his head slightly. He wasn't angry. If anything, he looked curious. Compassionate. He gestured gently. "It's all right. Tell me." And so the story began. Her past that nobody saw. "My name is Aria," she said softly. "I'm 24. My mother passed away last year, and my stepfather threw me out of the house the same week. I've been working 2 jobs just to survive. Today, I lost one of them." Her voice cracked. "I came here because this cemetery is peaceful. I sit here sometimes, even though I don't know anyone buried here. When I read the words on your wife's stone, loved without measure, remembered without end, it felt like she was someone who understood pain." Daniel listened, his eyes softening. His late wife, Emily, had been the kindest soul he had ever known. She loved helping strangers, comforting the broken, lifting the hopeless. Hearing Aria speak that way almost felt like Emily herself had guided the young woman to her grave. "What happened today?" Daniel asked. Aria inhaled shakily. "My boss said I wasn't fast enough. I fainted from exhaustion last week, and he warned me. I tried. I really tried. But I guess trying isn't enough." "Have you eaten today?" he asked. She shook her head silently. Daniel swallowed. For the first time in years, he felt something inside him shift, an instinctive pull to help, not out of guilt or obligation, but because Emily would have done the same. A chance encounter becomes a turning point. He invited her to a nearby cafe. Aria hesitated, but hunger and exhaustion won. As they sat, Daniel observed the way her hands trembled, the way she tried to hide her tears behind polite smiles. "You remind me of her," he said suddenly. "Your wife?" Aria asked. He nodded. Emily believed that everyone deserved a chance. Especially those who carried burdens no one else could see. Aria looked down. "I'm not special. I'm just unlucky." "No," Daniel replied firmly. "Life has been unfair to you, but that doesn't make you worthless." For the first time, her eyes filled not with sorrow, but relief. Their challenges begin. Daniel offered her a job, nothing glamorous, but stable. His company needed an assistant in their small community outreach program, a department inspired by Emily's passion for helping others. Aria refused at first. "I don't want charity," she whispered. Daniel shook his head. "It's not charity. It's opportunity." She accepted. But it wasn't smooth. Challenges Aria faced. She struggled with confidence, often doubting she was capable. Co-workers whispered, assuming she had connections to the boss. Her stepfather tried returning to her life when he learned she had a job, demanding money. Aria had panic attacks whenever she felt she wasn't good enough. Yet every time she wanted to quit, Daniel reminded her. "You survived everything life has thrown at you so far. Don't underestimate your strength." And slowly, Aria bloomed. Daniel's hidden struggle. Despite his composed exterior, Daniel battled his own demons. Since Emily's death, he had lived in emotional numbness. His life was successful but hollow. Helping Aria forced him to confront his grief, to speak Emily's name again without breaking, to live again instead of simply existing. But one day, Aria overheard 2 executives saying she was a pity project, and she ran out of the building in tears. Daniel found her sitting again near Emily's grave. "I shouldn't be here," Aria cried. "People think I'm using you." Daniel sat beside her. "Let them talk." Emily was judged for helping people too, but she never stopped. "She taught me that kindness isn't weakness." Aria looked at him through watery eyes. "Why are you helping me this much?" Daniel exhaled. "Because you are proof that Emily's heart didn't die with her." Those words shattered the last wall around her heart. A powerful resolution. Months passed, and Aria became one of the most dedicated members of the outreach team. She created a program for homeless women seeking shelter, drawing from her own experiences. The project grew rapidly, receiving praise nationwide. Daniel promoted her, not because of pity, but because she had earned it. 1 year after their first meeting, they returned to Emily's grave together. Aria placed a white lily on the stone. "Thank you," she whispered, as though speaking to Emily herself. "You changed my life, even without knowing me." Daniel smiled, a tear slipping down his cheek. "She would be proud of you." Aria looked up at him. "And thank you, for seeing me when nobody else did." He shook his head gently. "No, Aria. You did this. I just gave you a door. You were the one brave enough to walk through it." The final message. Life brings people together for reasons we don't always understand. A poor young woman searching for peace. A grieving millionaire searching for meaning. And a grave, where two broken stories met and healed. The message is simple and powerful. Kindness can resurrect hope. And sometimes, the people we help end up saving us too. The wind blew softly across the cemetery as Aria stood alone at Emily's grave. A year had passed since the day Daniel found her crying here, a lost girl with no direction. Today, she stood not as the same broken soul, but as a woman who had discovered her strength. Still, something inside her felt unsettled. She placed a fresh lily on the stone and whispered, "I hope I'm making you proud." "Emily would say you're taking on too much," a voice replied behind her. Aria turned and saw Daniel walking toward her with his hands in his coat pockets, a tired smile on his face. But she saw it instantly, something was off. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "You look exhausted," she said. "I'm fine," he replied. Too quickly. Too lightly. Aria didn't believe him. They walked back toward his car together, but every step deepened her worry. Daniel had supported her through every dark moment, yet now, when he was struggling, he seemed determined to hide it. A sudden storm in Daniel's world. The next morning, the office buzzed with tension. The outreach program was thriving, but Daniel's attention had been divided for weeks. Aria entered his office and found him staring at Emily's photo on his desk. "Daniel, talk to me," she said softly. He closed his eyes. "The board wants to shut down the outreach division." Aria froze. "What? Why?" "They claim it's not profitable." His voice was tight. "They don't understand why we invest in people who can't pay us back." Aria felt heat rise in her chest, not anger for herself, but for every person who depended on the programs they had built. "They can't do that," she whispered. "They can," Daniel replied. "Unless we show them undeniable results, fast." Aria stepped closer. "Then let me help." Daniel looked at her, not as a boss, not as a mentor, but as someone who had come to rely on her. Someone who needed her more than he could admit. "Aria, this is my fight." "No," she said firmly. "It's our fight. You lifted me when I fell. Now it's my turn." The challenges rise again. They spent the next weeks working tirelessly. New challenges. Funding, donations had slowed, and they needed a major sponsor to keep programs alive. Opposition, several executives openly undermined Daniel, wanting to cut costs and boost profits. Aria's past, her stepfather resurfaced, demanding money again and threatening to expose lies she never told. Daniel's health, he began skipping meals, sleeping at the office, and pushing himself beyond reason. Aria watched him fight for something he believed in with every fiber of his being, but she also watched him crumble quietly. One night, after a long meeting with the board, Aria found Daniel leaning against the wall in the empty hallway, breathing heavily. "Daniel." He straightened quickly, pretending nothing was wrong. "Just tired." Stop lying, she pleaded. You've done enough alone. Let me carry some of this. His voice cracked. I don't want to lose the last thing that still connects me to Emily. Aria stepped beside him. Saving this outreach program doesn't just honor Emily, it honors what she taught you. And what she taught me. He stared at her, truly stared, and for the first time, accepted help. Aria's courage changes everything. Aria spent days visiting shelters, gathering testimonials, interviewing struggling families who survived because of the outreach program. She collected videos, letters, and stories. She didn't sleep. She didn't rest. She fought. And with each story she gathered, she felt her own purpose grow. This wasn't just Daniel's mission now, it was hers. Finally, the day of the board presentation arrived. Daniel stood in front, but it was Aria who walked forward when he faltered. She spoke with raw honesty. I stood in front of Emily Hayes' grave because I had nowhere else to go. Your outreach program didn't just help me, it saved my life. And it has saved thousands more. Cutting this program won't just hurt numbers on a sheet, it will destroy people who are holding on by a thread. The room was silent. Executives avoided her eyes, ashamed. Then she played the videos. Stories of survivors. Stories of mothers. Stories of children. Stories of hope. By the end, several board members were wiping their eyes. Even those who opposed Daniel couldn't deny the impact. The vote was held. And the outreach program won. Not by a slim margin. By a landslide. Daniel looked at Aria with a pride deeper than words. You were the voice I didn't know I needed, he whispered. A quiet moment at the grave. That evening, they returned to Emily's grave together, just like they had 1 year earlier. Daniel placed a rose on the stone. We saved it, Em, he whispered. Because she fought beside me. Aria knelt beside him. Thank you, she said softly. For believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. Daniel turned toward her. His eyes were warm, filled with gratitude and something deeper, something he hadn't felt in years. You didn't just honor Emily's memory, he said. You carried it forward. Aria felt tears gather, but this time they weren't from sadness. They were from healing. From growth. From hope. The ending of Chapter 2, a strong message. Sometimes life gives us people not to replace the ones we lost, but to continue their legacy through us. Aria was no longer the girl crying beside a grave. Daniel was no longer the man living inside grief's shadow. Together, they stepped into a future built on kindness, courage, and second chances. And as they stood before Emily's grave, one thing became clear. Their story was just beginning.